bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear. And today we've got Scott KERNAGHAN, Kearney from Source for Sports. And I appreciate you coming in. We've had a lot of people talking about basically gear and the new stuff coming out with CCM and Bauer and True and Warrior and all this kind of stuff. And it can get a little bit overwhelming for parents, number one, for sure. And the kids are tapped in. I mean, they've got all the social media accounts and they know exactly what's coming out and stuff like that. But you being in it with Source for Sports and kind of been there, quite a while, seen a lot of changes over the years, and kind of wanted to chat with you a little bit just about kind of what's happening in the hockey industry specifically. Because when I was a kid, there was a stick rack of like 15 different brands of sticks, from Titan to Christian to a bunch of different stuff. And now
You're dating yourself.
Yeah, I know, right? And now, you go to, there are different brands, don't get me wrong, but really you have like your kind of big 3, big 4 that are predominant now, right? On gear and stuff like that. But before we get into all that stuff, where's home for you, Kearney? Where were you kind of born and raised?
I was born in London, and I just moved out of London about 4 years ago because I got married and moved to Woodstock, but I still call London home.
All right.
I'm here most of the time. Yeah.
Now, whose idea was it to go to Woodstock?
My wife was from from Woodstock, and she works there and works longer, harder hours than I do. So
Perfect.
The least I could do is commute. Yeah.
There you go. So the breadwinner won that one, eh?
Exactly. Yeah. We know who the boss is in the house.
Yeah. Well, just like everybody else. You're good. Yeah. You've that was a solid husband move right there. You got some good points for that. For sure.
I don't know if those still work anymore, but it's been too many years now.
Yeah, you've used them all.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
now, did Woodstock put you guys closer to family a little bit, like with her family and stuff like that?
Her family's all from there, like a Polish family, so it's big, and they've got a great farm out there, so we get to go have some fun and hopefully get some true pond hockey happening there. But all my family's kind of scattered. Family, my one brother and my mom are in London, and then my other brother's in Kitchener, so I'm kind of the middle point.
Yeah, cool. Oh, that's good. That's really good. And you just obviously but you've got a little guy now. So having family around though is massive. Like being able to have an aunt maybe take him on a Sunday, or have a grandma or grandpa come in to, help with, if you want to have a date night to gain some more, dad points and husband points and stuff. But it is nice to be close to family for sure.
It's awesome. Yeah. And they're, I think as far as our family, they're so supportive and would help us out in any crisis or whatnot. So it's huge to have that around. I feel bad for people that don't have that support system that they can lean on once in a while. Yeah,
I know for sure. Now, I don't have any family in town, so if you don't mind, I'd like to get to know your wife's family. And then for hockey wise, where did you kind of play your minor hockey and stuff when you were growing up?
I just played West London growing up, and I took a little
Hawks.
Yeah, the Hawks. Yeah, took a little sabbatical for a few years until I got into men's league when I was kind of late teens, early 20s, and now I'm just a beer leaguer that loves going to the rink and spending some time in the locker room.
It's funny though. When I'm talking to young kids and stuff like that, and it doesn't really matter where you played, because at the end of the day, 90% of all of us are going to come back and play in the same league at one point. It's going to be the men's league with your buddies, and having showers and having beers after the game is more important than what happened on the ice, right?
Exactly.
So regardless of where guys or girls play, it's always fun to come back and get a group of buddies and get some pickup going or play in a league and stuff, right?
It's awesome to be able to get out there a couple of times a week.
Now, real quick sidebar here, but in the leagues that you play in, how many psychos are on the ice? Are there any guys looking for NHL contracts? Because that's the one thing with men's league, you get the odd guy on each team that doesn't realize that they have to work the next day, or that you have to work the next day, and just
I feel like there's one on each team that seems to go pretty hard, and it's kind of funny where you're playing 30, 35 plus, and these guys still think that they're going to make the show at some point, or maybe they go home and get a high five from their wife or whatnot. But it's not too bad. Brookside is I feel like it's cleaned up, and other pickups it's
hit and miss, right?
It's hit or miss,
yeah, for sure. And for anybody out there who plays men's league, whenever you can find a good skate with a bunch of good guys that are girls that are playing for fun, can play some good hockey, it's so refreshing, because you're right, almost every team at least has one that still kind of thinks they're 19, 20 looking for that scholarship or that NHL contract for sure. I was talking to a buddy today, actually, just on the phone, and he's like, my biggest fear came true. I'm like, why? What was it? He's like, when I was young, we'd go out on a Saturday night and have some drinks, and then the next morning I'd pour myself in the car at like 6:30 a.m. to go play men's league with my dad. And I, play the game. And then after the game, the guys would be smoking in the locker room, having beers. And then they start taking their jerseys off and gear off and go to the showers, and their bodies were brutal. He's like, first of all, they needed a razor, which is like, okay, a little manscaping. But he's like, they're all out of shape and fat. And he's like, I'm that guy now. So, one of those things, like if you picture any men's league locker room, you just see it, right? Having a couple beers after the game, going in, probably a couple LBs overweight. And, but nevertheless, still fun to play for sure.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And then, so how did you end up getting into basically like the retail side of hockey with equipment and Source for Sports and stuff? Because you have been with them for kind of a while in different spurts, but how did you end up getting into there?
I actually, in high school, I did a business co-op. So I did work there for 2.5 hours a day for a semester. And then I was fortunate enough, maybe 6 months later, they offered me a position. And, I've been there ever since, more or less, other than a little break for 6-8 months doing something different. But other than that, I've been there and kind of moved up the ranks and built those relationships.
So how many years? Like when people ask you, like some young staff comes in, like, hey, like how long have you been here for?
I tell them I've worked here longer than you've been alive most of the time. But I've been around 18 years.
Wow, eh?
Yeah.
That's nuts, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And who kind of did the hiring back then? Was it
Mike Wanlin? Yeah.
Okay,
so he's one of the head honchos there who I worked actually hand in hand with for a long time and still do. And he called me up and
that's cool.
Gave me the position. It was fantastic.
So then going through school and kind of finishing up school and post post-secondary and stuff like that. I know you worked there kind of throughout, kind of post-secondary. What, like, did you kind of know, man, I think I'm going to get into this when I'm done? Or were you, because like the reason I'm asking these questions is because there's a lot of young guys, girls that are looking for jobs right now, in the summer is coming up, I know getting in the spring, summer, looking for summer jobs, looking for opportunities, right? I know your first opportunity there was basically probably volunteering through school, doing a co-op, not getting paid, putting in hours, probably put in extra hours. And one of the things, because I'm old, I preach to all these young guys, like sometimes, and girls, you've got to put in time without getting paid to get a job or to get some experience, right? And you obviously did that. But were you kind of thinking maybe this is something that you could see yourself doing, or did you have other aspirations and stuff that you wanted to do for a career?
I had some other aspirations as far as, I always wanted to be a rep of a hockey company. I thought that'd be super cool. That'd just going around and talking about the newest and greatest products and getting people excited about that. And then a couple avenues that I ventured down, but it's such a great fit as far as with lifestyle, and you get to go to work and talk about things you love. It could be hockey, it could be soccer, it could be baseball, but you're talking about and two people that are interested in the sport. So, I get to come and do things like this and talk hockey and talk shop, and it's not like going to work at that point.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it kind of saw a path there, and the ownership group there with at London Source is unbelievable. They're fantastic. They work with you. So there's so many check marks that I got checked off that it made sense to be around.
Oh, that's cool. And I think one thing you hit on there was you do have a really, really cool group of owners there. I don't know them all well, but I know a couple of them, and they're there, they're working, like Hopper, like he's, you'll see him in the office. He's talking to somebody about running shoes, and I know he's able to take a little bit more time to do some fun stuff, like, get away a little bit. But for a lot of years, you worked probably a lot hand in hand with these guys, and they're the owners, but they're still the ones cleaning up a little bit or selling stuff or talking to clients or talking to customers. And it's got some good mentorship if anybody there ever gets an opportunity to become a manager or a leader in that position, some good guys to kind of learn from, right?
For sure. Like one of my first experiences, Hop, one of the owners, he grabbed a rag and started cleaning the floor where someone had spilt a coffee. And I'm like, those are the type of people you want to work for, because, they take value in their business, but also, they're going to get their hands dirty because they know it needs to be done. There's other instances like that, but they're there way more than most other owners, I feel. And they care about the customers, but also the customer experience, and the products. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's cool. And I think it is really, really important to see your captain of a hockey team pick up pucks sometimes, right? Or, you know what I mean? I think that is important to see that. And I think it's important to see your leaders sometimes, getting down on their hands and knees and having to clean something up or,
Yeah.
pick something, whatever it is, right? But I think it's important for that younger generation or that younger group of players or staff or whoever to see that the leaderships are involved and they want, like you said, that experience or that customer experience.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where, I'm never going to make someone do something that I have never
Good
done.
point, yeah, for
right.
sure.
So if it's something I haven't done, I'm not going to make you do it because I'm going to do it first and then you can do it after. But I think that was kind of one of those things that they instilled in the staff or the managers right now, which goes a long way.
Yeah. Or if you're getting them to do it, you know how crappy it is because you've already done it.
Yeah,
So now it's your turn to do it.
Yeah. You at least brag about it once, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now over 18 years, which is, obviously a good stretch. I know there's a little bit of a gap in there. So kind of what was the thought process as far as were you kind of getting stale there or, kind of being there for a while and being like, man, I don't know, probably I'm sure having some second guessing, not sure what you were going to do. And then you kind of jumped into the beer market and kind of is still in sales. And what was that kind of transition like? Was it just a good opportunity that kind of popped to you, just probably meeting somebody and some buddies or whatever? And is that kind of how that happened? Or were you kind of looking just kind of, maybe I'll try something different for a little bit?
Yeah. One of my good buddies, his mother was Canadian sales manager for this agency. So she offered me this position. It was a great opportunity. It was kind of close to rep life. So I thought it'd be good on a resume if I did go back into the rep world for a hockey company or a sports company. So I thought it'd look good on a resume. But I found out pretty quickly, my product wasn't great. And, it's kind of like coming into the hockey stick world these days where, it's so hard to break in. I was selling an import product when everyone's going local. Right. So it made it a little bit harder, made some great relationships and learned a lot, even just coming back to the store after that. But yeah, it was, the hours were great. The money was good, but it didn't feel like home.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important, man, to do something that you like you said, coming to the store, it's fun. You get to interact with some fun people. You get to talk about hockey or sports, things that you're passionate about that you like. And then getting into something else where I think a lot of times, and it's happened in my industry where I've had people working here and they're like, someone offers them a pretty good job, real good money. They got to jump at it. And I understand that 100%. And then 3, 4, 5 months later, a year later, like, hey, I kind of miss doing what I'm doing. Can I come back?
Yeah.
100%, man. And if they're good people like you are, obviously, and like, come back. I'd love to have you back. But I think it's important for anybody with any job, if you want to try something out and you have that luxury of being able to get a good job and maybe come back, but you got to go try it out. Because had you not done that, you probably wouldn't appreciate the job or the situation that you had before, right?
Yeah, of course. And a lot of times when you leave your comfort zone, you learn so much about yourself and other tactics, how to manage people or to sell certain things. You just, if you take it as a learning experience, you're only going to better yourself when you come back, which I'm sure you feel with some of your guys that have come back. They might add a new flair to what they had before and kind of be revitalized from, the 9 to 5 kind of go through the cycles.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now coming back. So, I know it's probably a bit of a grind for you when you're selling, because at that moment or at that period of time, that's when I think a lot of the microbrews were coming in and all that stuff, right? So it's like you're competing against mom and dads making beer in their living room. Yeah. So new Andersons popping up and all these microbrews, Muskokas, everything, so it's nuts for sure. So maybe you have a product that's not cracking off the shelves.
No.
So what was that? What was the process like of coming back? Were you 3-4 months in, man, maybe I shouldn't have left, or was the door kind of always open to come back if you wanted to?
I actually Hop actually emailed me. He's like, and I had been in the store. I kind of worked a couple part-time shifts when I could. And, if something new was coming out, I kind of ventured in and had a conversation with the reps.
Or just snag some demos, eh?
Yeah. Got to keep those relationships alive.
Trading beer for demos. I got it.
But yeah, I kept my foot in the door. You're not going to leave something you love fully. Yeah. So I still, as I said, I worked part-time, and then Hop kind of sent me an email and said, hey, we'd like for you to come back. Do you want to talk about this? And, the writing was on the wall with the company I was with. And sure. I kind of took advantage of it and got to come back and kind of manage my department again, which was fantastic.
Man. That's cool. And was it a lot different coming back? I know it was only a 6-7 month kind of spread, but like, were you much different coming back? Obviously through experiences, probably a little bit of a different manager or a different type of worker. But did anything change? Like, was there any like crazy changes in the store as far as in that 6-7 months? Did you notice like, cause I want to talk about the changes from like 18 years ago to now type
for
thing.
sure.
But even in that small period of time, was there anything that was like, that stood out to you that was like, oh man, this is different or something?
The inventory management wasn't great. It came back and there was a lot of outages, but guys got thrown into situations that, they maybe not as comfortable with. Instead of buying 1 or 2 of a certain thing where I might have bought 7 or 8 and then we dwindled down, it's, to keep on top of those things. So inventory was a little off. And, but other than that, no, I just had to remember all like the codes to the computer and they never deactivated my email and stuff like that. So I still got, I still saw the stuff that was flying in. So I still had a grasp on it, but
that's good.
I think I just came back with more of a focused mentality of, we just need to bring back the fun and the rest will kind of happen.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's cool.
So going into kind of what I alluded to earlier, but let's say if you look back, 18, 17, 16, 15 years ago, what are some of the biggest changes that you noticed? We'll talk about hockey, but what are some of the biggest changes that you noticed in the hockey gear? Like if you looked at the stick rack back in the day to what it is now, or the skate rack or the helmets or whatever it is there anything that kind of pops off that like, this has been a big change in hockey?
I think one of the biggest changes was fit of everything. Like everything is so much more dialed in. Custom is going off. And I know back in the day you used to wear a graph skate where graph really was such a big thing in the market as far as making the other companies make skates better because they had so many different fits. They had a 7 series line that had like 7 or 8 different skates that all fit differently. And we were kind of specializing in that. So you would come in, you were this type of foot type, you went into this graph and we really knew our product that way. And then Bauer, they had 2 lines, but they just didn't fit nearly as well as these graph skates. So that really pushed the envelope in CCM and Bauer to make better skates, not only material wise, but fit wise, which is just as important. So that was probably the biggest thing over, 15, 18 years that has really changed in the game because I think if you're a good skater or a strong skater, the rest of the game is going to come a lot easier. Where if your foot's moving around the skate and, you could be an ankle bender or whatever you want to call it, but you don't have to be like that if you have a properly fit skate. So I think that really changed the game. And obviously sticks changed as far as getting lighter, lots more pop and people understanding the technology and in flexes and curves and whatnot and educating them that way. But other than that, like protection wise and technology wise and helmets and things like that, I've got so much better. But also people are so much more educated that they know exactly this is what's cool and what's not.
Yeah. That's a big piece of it. Right. Bringing up graph though, cause you're right. I was a big graph guy playing all college and pro. Now if I have a couple of pairs of graphs that are in decent shape and I've gone back to them and it's amazing how bad of a skate it is now. It was a great skate then, but to your point, like graph, I know one of the things was it was Canadian. One of their tags was that it was all handmade. Every skate was pretty much handmade. A lot of leather in it. So it was a heavy boot when it got wet, but comfortable. Like, and if you're a good skater, like I remember I had a 707, which is a really low cut boot.
Yes.
But I loved it. It was unbelievable. And then when I did switch into Bauer, I realized that, wow, like this has way more integrity, way stiffer boot, way less movement, which was better for what I liked. And I feel, and you can tell me what you think about this. I feel like the true skate, like the VH or the true skate has done that to the new age Bauer and CCM because that true skate when it first came out as a VH, I think, but that was like custom. They had it was kind of like the old school graph to the new age. And then Bauer and CCM had to wake up and get scanners and figure out how to like make their skate better. And now CCM and Bauer, their skates are way better than they were 5 years ago.
100%.
And I think True pushed them to do that because True had this like, perfect foot. They would like the boot takes 10 minutes to put on because it's so fitted, and they've kind of pushed CCM and Bauer to like, and I don't know for sure, but I was talking to, so for instance, I was talking to a pro equipment guy, and the only 3 brands I see at the AHL level and NHL level are CCM, Bauer, and True. That's it.
Yeah.
And the True ones that were like popped off about 2 years ago, like half a team would have them. Now there's 1 or 2 guys. That's it. So
Yeah.
it's starting to fizzle a bit. And one of the reasons why I was asking him, what's the best brand? He's like, well, Bauer and CCM kind of taking over the market. He's like, True's a pain because they break down a lot. They're made really well. The guys like them. They're fitted, but they break down a lot. We're always fixing them. And so kind of like Graf, it's going to, I feel like if they don't fix it quickly or do something to make it a little bit more of a sustainable boot, they may have some trouble kind of staying up in that market. But now Bauer and CCM's boots fit tight. They're scan. They fit, guys love them. So it's almost, True or Graf's done the same thing 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that what True's doing now as far as pushing technology a little bit.
Yeah. I think True's got some cool things coming down the pipeline. Definitely their custom skates.
Well, you got to share. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, they have their custom skate. Definitely, it's their idea is that literally you can put elastic bands instead of laces, and you should be able to skate in them.
Really?
Because they want to hold your foot.
Yeah.
But definitely
that's cool
because they are still made in Canada, handmade. They sometimes have some issues with durability. That's for sure.
Yeah.
They do have some remedies that you can go online. They're really good at their stuff online where, wrap the skate here or add some glue here. They'll tell you exactly what to get to make it last longer. But they actually have 2 stock skates that are coming out in the summer. So they have in senior, they have a skate at $399, and then I have one at $699. And the weight it's almost half of what their custom skate is.
Really?
Yeah. So it's I would say cosmetically, it's not the prettiest skate, but it's like I picked it up and it's like 15, 20 grams heavier than Bauer's top end skate.
So it's right there. It's right there.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Like one of the knocks on True is it's a bit of a heavier skate.
Yeah.
I personally, like when you're talking grams, like 15, 20 grams, who cares? As long as, as a player, like as long as the boot fits nice, like that's not going to really make you get to a puck quicker. Like, that small of increments, right?
It's going to save you a stride a game, more or less, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so I think like those kind of things are kind of to the side for me personally, but I understand like the light, like going from the custom skate to that's probably a big difference on the lightness, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like you're saying. And then you said something about like, it's not the prettiest boot. And that's the one thing that almost like if you think, cause you were in the beer industry for a little bit, but you look at like Labatt's and Molson, they were like the 2 big ones in Canada for years and years and years. No microbrews. Those were the 2 big ones. Well, if Labatt came out with a light beer, Molson came out with light beer.
Yeah.
If Labatt came out with 0.5 beer, they came out with a 0.5 beer. It was copycat. And you look at, if you go to any sports store right now and you look at CCM and Bauer, their graphics are almost, color schemes are like almost just like they're different. And you can tell right away just because you're in there every day. But for anybody like looking, a dad watching, grandfather watching their kids skate, hey, what kind of skates they have on? You line up 5 Bauers and 5 CCMs that are in the same kind of line. They're all same color scheme, same logo placement almost. Like it's crazy how much they've copied. And then True comes out and theirs is very different.
Yeah.
I don't love the look of a True skate, but it's recognizable. Graf was recognizable. It had that Graf logo,
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how like they're almost copycatted each other, CCM and Bauer, that it looks so similar, man.
Yeah. They actually do that on purpose. Like CCM knows they're number 2 as far as, NHL exposure and even just in retail sales. So they wanted to make it easy. So they have their tack line that fits like a Supreme. So black and yellow, black and gold, or black and yellow. And then you've got your Jet Speed, which is black and red, which is the same as Vapor. So you're like, you can go to the wall and say, hey, you want to try a Vapor skate on? Well, we also have a Jet Speed. It's the same colorway. So you can really pick it up. So you kind of, that type of player is that type of skate.
Would it also help in sales for CCM and Bauer as far as like a parent doesn't know? Like I saw a kid in that red skate. Like, did you ever have that where somebody comes in and like, or people pretty dialed in on the brand they want?
I would say our customers are pretty dialed in, maybe at the like very end.
Sure,
even under that, like the, maybe first time buying skates, that kind of thing, they might not be dialed in. But most kids nowadays, they have phones that they're saying, hey Siri, what is this skate? Or right? Like what's the coolest skate? So it's more or less like they're pretty dialed in. And it sometimes sucks when they want a certain skate, but you're like, this isn't going to fit your foot properly, right? So let's talk about fit and what's going to work. And coming back to kind of the product side, Bauer has something kind of new coming out for next year, or I guess this year now. Kind of like in sticks, they have youth, junior, intermediate, and senior. they now have their skates like that. So right now it's youth, junior, senior. Going forward, it's going to be youth, junior, intermediate, and senior. So what
does that change the price points a bit too?
A little bit,
okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So it changes it, but when you're at that, if it was a junior skate was to say 200, it might be $20 or $30 more, but that skate is significantly more, a little bit more stiff. So they're going to add, because that person's going to be a little bit bigger, they're going to add, a different, fit to it as well with their 3D scanner that we have in the store, where you stand on it, it analyzes your feet. They have over about 1 million scans that they're building skates off of now. So
they're collecting data as they're doing the scanning
exactly,
right? To create better skates, basically.
Yeah, so they can make the skates better and the fits better for everyone. So that's kind of one piece to the new puzzle. But the other thing they're doing at a certain price point, about $420 and above in senior, instead of it being D and double E, it's fit 1, fit 2, fit 3.
Okay.
So what D was is, it's your regular width, and then you go to a double E and it just gets wider. It doesn't get deeper, it just gets wider.
Yeah, your box foot, right?
Yes. Yeah. But now it's, if you're with those scans, they found, okay, when that person needs a wider skate, they also need a deeper skate. Gotcha. So you're going to go into a fit 2, and it's not just going to get wider, it's going to get deeper in certain areas. And when you go to a fit 3, it's going to get a little bit wider, but also a little bit deeper for those bigger feet.
You're right, because all it was just basically wide. It's like a running shoe, just widen the shoe.
Exactly.
Or widen the boot, right? So now they're doing okay, that's cool.
So that's something really that they've kind of stolen from their data, which is super cool. And they're pretty excited about this as far as for fit. And, it's going to be, I would say, kind of complicated as far as for the consumer for the first year. But after that, I think it's going to make the fits and the quality for certain age groups that much better.
And also if their price points change, because, I'm sure you've had this where kids come in, they're like, oh man, if I could just fit in a 5.5, that'd be a junior skate rather than a 6 that turns into senior, right? And if they have that little bit of a bridge on a maybe less, because you go into a high-end senior skate, you're $1,000 plus, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot. If you're like a AAA kid who fits into a senior boot, that's expensive, man. So if there is a bridge there a little bit to save mom and dad a couple $100 over the next couple of years, that they're in an intermediate skate rather than a senior skate. And I think it's a good business move. Obviously, it keeps keeps the cost down for parents a little bit. You're still moving product, right? Yeah,
and I think it really just comes down to fit as far as a lot of even adults, that could be in a 5.5 skate, but they don't have a kid's foot. They have an adult foot, but it's just short. So this will allow those people to be in their appropriate fitting skate instead of compromising and having sore feet or issues coming down once the skate breaks in a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool. When I was young, I wore Tacks a bunch when I was a kid. And I remember having like quarter size. So let's say a quarter size blisters on both sides of my ankle, just breaking them in. Right. Remember back in the day?
Yeah.
And that was every year. Like every year I got new skate, or every year that I would get new skates, which wasn't until I was a bit older. It was like that. And it was just part of breaking in new skates, kid. Just don't worry, we'll put Band-Aids on them. You'll keep going. Do you ever see anything like that anymore? Like I know there's like hot spots on kids sometimes that may have to get punched out or weird fitting foots, but way less of that nowadays than there ever was, right? As far as like a foot causing blisters or causing irritation. Like you get the odd little thing here and there, but pretty easily fixed if they come in and talk to you.
Yeah, I think if they're fit properly, a lot of that time that stuff is eliminated. There's always, exceptions to the rule, but with a proper insole to support the foot and the proper skate, a lot of times there's not a whole lot of movement in there that is going to cause blistering or soreness or whatnot. And I think, the staff is really good and like, oh, is it bothering you a little bit? It's only going to get worse on the ice. So let's just make sure we take care of all these things, right? Instead of guys being like, oh, I'll work through this, but I'll give it a couple skates, it'll feel better after that. Like, why do we need to do this when we have the technology to change this for you? So you don't have to even worry about that. The first couple of skates, you just go out there and get used to your new ones.
Yeah, totally. Now, we talk about skate, like stay on skates for a second, but how frustrating is it for you when mom comes in and she's like, yeah, we bought these over at Canadian Tire and they just don't fit right. And, and you see the skate, it's like a size too big or 2 sizes too big. And this is no knock on Canadian Tire or whatever brand, whatever store it is, but some young kid who's working there or whoever, and doesn't know how to fit the skate properly, things like that. The one thing I've noticed over the years and coming into your store is that the staff there are knowledgeable.
Yeah.
They know how to fit a skate. Like I've been around the game a long time, so I know how to fit my kids into a skate, but not even to the extent that you guys do and your girls do as far as, so what are some of the benefits of like getting your skate fitted properly, obviously, but what are some of the things that you look for when you are fitting someone for a skate? So if a mom or dad did come in your store and just, or had a skate, maybe a cousin dropped a set of skates off, hey, you got to use a pair of skates, you can try them out. What are some things to look for that are like kind of like high level 1, 2, 3? Like if you're going to put the boot on and you want your kid to actually learn how to skate or play hockey in it, these are 3 things or whatever, however many that you probably should make sure.
I think, overall length, a lot of times, we're both parents and we want to get longevity out of clothes and shoes and stuff like that. But, in these performance sports, especially when you're, playing single, double, AAA hockey, you can't compromise, especially on skates. Like, buy a big elbow pad, buy a big glove. Like that's not going to hinder you as much as skates. So making sure that the skate size is the biggest thing. And the depth of the skate. So what we do is we kind of do a Teeter-Totter test. So we want your skate to sit in the boot, but if we put kind of a pencil across the eyelets, it's not teetering back and forth, or there's not a big gap there. So it tells us that the skate's going to, flex in the right spot. It's not going to break down prematurely. But stuff that we'll look for.
Say that again. Because so if I have the boot on, I have the skate on.
Yes.
Okay. So my foot's in the boot laced up.
So we're going to flip the tongue forward.
Okay.
So I can put a piece of wood or whatever it may be across. So your eyelets, the piece is touching the eyelets, but also touching your foot. Yeah. So and we kind of go from almost the bottom by the toe box all the way up. Okay. Because if you have, if I can put my finger underneath that pencil, it's too deep of a skate.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then if the pencil or whatever it is teetering, it's not deep enough.
Yeah,
so
your foot's too big for that boot.
Yeah. A lot of times then you cut off circulation to the feet. So you get tingling and other things like that. So looking for things like that. And also we can get old skates where you're like, hey, what are you wearing right now? And you can really see wear marks. Like if you're getting a heavy wear in the heel or in the arch or whatnot, then we can kind of identify that as far as what we need to look for, make sure we're locking those pieces in. And maybe we're switching into a different brand or a different style of skate to make sure that it's going to fit the foot properly and we're not going to aggravate it or going forward. Because a lot of kids will skate through it because they wanted these skates. They're not going to tell mom and dad. They're like, these are not fitting my feet after I begged you for the last 6 months to get these skates. So a lot of times identifying that stuff before we kind of even start the process of talking about skates is makes it that much easier to make sure that we get into the right thing.
For sure. So you basically are telling me that you can tell if I'm an ankle burner or not by just looking at my old skates.
Sometimes, if there's heavy wear in the heel, definitely it tells me. And
you're rolling the ankles inwards. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Another quick thing. I remember like this again, old school, but even just grabbing a boot. Now this is less and less common with good boots, but I still see kids on the ice where their ankles are rolling in. Yeah. And it's not the kid's fault. It's just that the boots are bad boots. They're old boots.
Yeah. And, could be.
So even for parents, just grabbing the boot by the heel and squeezing the kind of those top eyelets. And if that is mushy or those can go in, there's not enough support there, and make sure that you upgrade that boot. And then the length thing, I think a quick way sometimes that I talk to parents about is even toe tap in the front. So putting your foot in the boot, toe tap the front so the kids, can feel the toe cap. Yeah. And then having them lean forward. Cause sometimes you get kids and I'll check it quickly in the locker room. And I love the pencil one, but sometimes you don't have time to do that. If I'm in between sessions, I'll be like, loosen up your skate, put your toe cap, or put your toes right at the toe cap, lean forward. And you look down the back of the heel and you can see a big gap there. You can feel like 2 fingers and you're like, dude, your foot's going to be moving around a ton in here. Like this isn't fair. You're going to be getting blisters or you're going to be sliding around too much, So some quick things, but the pencil, I like that a lot. And I never even thought, to be honest with you, until you just said that about the depth of the boot. So is my foot too big for the boot? Like, is it pushing through basically the tongue or is it too low? So my eyelets are almost touching when I tie them up. And that's great.
And same thing with the pencil. Like we used to use a big pen to, as you said, slide the toes to the front of the boot and just get that big pen in the back. So it's touching the back of the skate and touching the back of the heel. And that kind of gives a bit of size worth of growth or an appropriate size of growth for the upcoming year without it being too big or too small. Yeah. And it standardizes like putting your finger back behind the heel, like your finger might be, thicker than mine.
You got
like,
sausages for fingers.
Right.
Yeah.
So like it really can, it can change the fit. Like a lot of times I'll grab a Brannock and throw my finger on the Brannock. I'm like, I'm 2.5 sizes on this Brannock. So it's probably too big if I get my thumb or my finger back there.
Yeah, totally. And then moving along kind of sticks, like obviously you've seen a massive change in sticks and what's, now the composite stick and how light they are and things like that. And you said something that I think is really, really important. I think, and this is a big piece of hockey in general, but parents and players becoming more educated. They know they haven't, like back when I was young, I didn't know what a flex was. I mean, at one point, I think I played with a 120.
Yeah,
you kidding
a lot of guys did.
And I cut it down. So it's probably like a 200, you know what I mean? Like, so I had no idea back when I played as a younger kid, when flexes started becoming a bit relevant. But now, I mean, kids know what a flex is. Kids know where kick points are. Kids know, or getting an idea of that, right? And as far as stick technology and stuff like that, what are some of the biggest things that you've noticed as far as, I know Bauer's come out with their new stick with the hole in the blade, right? The slit in the blade. Yeah. Or is there anything that kind of that you see coming out in the stick market that's pretty cool, or stuff that they're kind of doing now that's going to help shooting or help stick handling or help different things like that?
A lot of it's like the composite and how it maintains its pop, where before, like you grab an old stick, you're like, it's dead, or, it's just not coming off as hot as this brand new one, where a lot of the sticks now have something to help the longevity of the pop. So the puck's going to come off hotter all season compared to, like 2 or 3 months, that kind of thing. Is a big thing. And then kick points, guys are getting more and more dialed in as far as, is it a low, is it a mid, is it a high kick point? And that before it used to be like everyone's using like a high kick point. Now it's all quick release, right? Like everyone it doesn't matter how hard you shoot it, it's how quick you can get it off.
Yeah.
So more guys are using those low kick points because of that. Even defensemen that you would think that, because you're a defenseman, you're taking more slap shots. So that transition is over the last few years has really changed the landscape and how they build sticks and whatnot. There's, True and Warrior, they don't make a high kick point. They only make a low and a lower.
Oh, really?
So
all for like quick snappers,
exactly.
quick wristers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to be clear on it, a low kick point would be a kick point that's kind of on the bottom third of the shaft, right? So closer to the blade. And that is there for quick release shots, things like that. And for anybody listening more, that if you are snapping a puck, you're going to have bend in the shaft, obviously, but you want that bottom thing to kind of snap off quick to let that puck go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then a mid kick point would be kind of in the middle of the shaft and more for like heavier shooting, right? I'm assuming like slap shots, one-timers, things like that.
It's kind of, you would have your low, which would be that quick release, like snapshot. And then, mid would be, it's kind of like that utility knife where you can do kind of both worlds, but it's more that mid range, like you're bringing it up to your waist and taking a one-timer or whatnot. And then you have that high kick point that you're going to take a full swing at it, and wind up. And the high will hold on to the puck longer, letting the stick kind of do that work. But how often nowadays in the game do we see slap shots?
Right.
It's pretty rare, like one-timers, but it's not even you're not taking a full wind-up in a one-timer.
And that's why I think, like you said earlier, the mid to low is probably the way to go. Like, or low and lower, like, because a lot of one-timers and they're not coming from the ceiling like we used to do, right? No. They're like off the ground, or you're a couple, foot off the ice and trying to one-time pucks and stuff like that, right? So that's cool.
And then the other technologies kind of, they kind of marry up blade technology with stick technology. So for somebody who wants a quick release stick, like a low kick point, generally the blade's going to be a little bit stiffer because they want it, no flex in the blade. They just want to come off as quick as possible. And then the mid range is going to be a little bit softer, holding that puck a little bit longer. And then when you get to the high kick point, it's a super soft blade to kind of hold it as long as possible.
Cool.
Which is, everything kind of marries up to make sure it works properly, as far as for that type of player.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. And then what was the reasoning behind, I've heard a couple different explanations on this, but what was the reasoning that Bauer gave for that slit in the blade? So for people that don't know, if you look at a hockey blade, basically you got your whole blade, normal size blade. And then there's a slit about 3/4 of the way up the blade to the top. So it has a blade on top, a slit of basically space in between, and then the bottom part of the blade. So what was the explanation on that as far as why they did that?
So the whole idea is that top piece of the blade is incredibly stiff. So if you can imagine, if it's a really soft blade, that blade's going to open up. It's not going to be as accurate. So if you're a lefty, you shoot the puck, it's going to fly left. Where if they can keep it stiff, then it maintains that blade being closed. The bottom piece is going to act almost like a slingshot. So if you think of a slingshot, it's got this 2 stiff points, and then you pull it back and it pops. Same idea with the bottom part of the blade. It's going to give you that pop feel, but without it actually opening it up.
So stiffer on the toe and the heel, and then a little bit more give in the middle. So you kind of pop. Okay, cool.
Exactly. It's called Sling Tech. So the idea of that, and then they did something really cool with the shaft as well. They did a 5-sided, so it's a little bit more comfortable in the hands.
That's right. Yeah.
But it enabled them actually to take some material away, but still maintain the same structural integrity that if it was just a 4-sided.
That is cool.
So they can save some grams and make it one of the lighter sticks out there. But it does look crazy when people think of hockey. You're like, why would there ever be a hole in the blade? Well,
right.
Like
remember Reebok came out with that stick with how the holes in the shaft?
Yes, the 808.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was wind resistance.
No, totally. Yeah. It's like speed up your shot. Not as much restriction.
Yeah. That might be one of the worst sticks I've ever sold.
And they probably did move for a bit too.
It took quite some time. Yeah. I think they might have been in 50% off at some point to move our first one.
Now, what's the feedback on the new blade? Do you have like some players that are using it at all?
Yeah, like very lively for sure. Yeah. Like the pop comes off hot. Yeah. It's so incremental. It's kind of like golf clubs where I feel like you're buying a new driver and it's like, oh, you get an extra 10 yards. But like, they've been saying this for 10 years. I'm not hitting the ball 500 yards, right?
Yeah,
there's always that max. So, it does give you, it's kind of a cool selling point, but it does have that kind of add a little bit of pop to the blade.
And what does that retail for now? It's over $4, is it not?
It's $3.99.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is kind of like if I'm going in to buy my 16-year-old boy or girl skates and a stick, high end, they play AAA or travel hockey or whatever. Like I'm looking at $1,500 to $2,000 by the time I leave.
Yeah.
That's one stick. And
man,
at the gas station when I was a kid, I could get the whole box of sticks that were sitting there for that kind of money.
Yeah. How times have changed, eh?
It's crazy though. Right. And that's why I think it's important that obviously, you gotta, things are going to get increased price wise with inflation and R&D that these companies put in. Cause they do spend a lot of money on R&D. There's no doubt. But man, when does it stop? Because I'm not saying it's going to stop, but that's why I think it's important when Bauer or CCM or whoever true warrior comes out with these in between sticks. 13-year-old kid does not need a $400 stick. He doesn't know how to, he can shoot well or she can shoot well, but not to the point where they're going to maximize that technology. Yeah. Right. So it's not, if there are different, and I know there are a lot of different price points on stuff, but it is crazy. I've said this before. If you or I, like who shoot pucks and kind of know the feel of a stick a little bit, and I'm not saying I'm at the NHL level at all, but if I grab a $100 stick off the rack and a $400 stick off or $300 stick or $400, I guess, off the rack, way different. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know how to shoot a puck properly, you're playing men's league and you're just like, I like to wrist pucks, then buy the $100 stick. You don't need but it is unbelievable how nice the technology is and how it reacts to how you shoot and how you place pucks. And it's unbelievable.
It's once you've used a high end stick, it's hard to go back to anything than that. But they are starting to make they're, as retailers, we don't want the prices to get to 400.
Yeah,
it's just not.
It's hard, right?
It's, it's when they break and it's out of warranty, it looks bad on us, and we might get yelled at or whatnot.
So kids crying.
You see these grays? It's not from my kid. It's from parents yelling at me. No, we have awesome customers. But we asked years ago because the sticks at one point were $2.99, and then all of a sudden they jumped up to $3.40, and you're like, guys, this is getting too high. After taxes, we're $4, and they listened. After a couple of seasons, they brought it down to $3.09 or $3.20. But then they just all of a sudden, use this inflation and they jump it up. But the nice thing is they have great sticks, that come in at $230, $200. Are they as good as the 300? No, but could me or you use it and think it's an unbelievable stick?
For sure. Yeah.
For sure. That a lot of that technology just trickles down. So it's as good as the last generation or maybe just the generation before that. So there's a lot of bang for the buck out there with the price point of the second price point down, not only in sticks, but also in skates. There's those 2 top price points. There's a lot of bang for your buck in that second price point. That a AAA, an OHL guy, any of those guys can use, an NHL guy could use those 2 products and not know the difference if we didn't tell them.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess one of the things, like when you look at the product that you have, like the three main companies, I'm assuming, and correct me here, but are going to be your Bauer, your CCM, and probably your Warrior, right?
Yeah, Warrior and True, depending
right?
on the category.
Okay. And which one do you find that you move the most? Like, is it, I know that True and Warrior don't have, are they full gear? Yeah, they've got everything, right? From helmet down?
Pretty much everything other than, I guess, skates for Warrior.
Yeah. So which product kind of moves the most? Is it CCM, is it Bauer, or does it depend on what piece of equipment it is?
It definitely depends on what category it is. As far as skates, Bauer is number one, but CCM's really, it's caught up, like their technology, especially in those opening price points and mid price points, they add, because they know they're number two, they add so much bang for the buck that, you know, we try to push guys into that because you're just getting more, you're getting more product there for the same price.
Yeah.
And, you know, in other aspects, Bauer is number two as far as maybe some protective pieces.
Yeah.
But really you could go through each category. If it's a helmet or a glove, you'd be like, okay, Bauer, then CCM, Bauer, CCM, 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 Bauer, Bauer.
Right.
But those two kill it for sure. Like those, you know, if you lost one of them, you'd want to go out of business for sure.
Yeah. Right.
Because everyone comes in looking for that stuff.
Yeah. And what about Warrior as a stick? Because I know a lot of guys in the NHL use them.
Yeah.
A lot of guys like them a lot. And I know, you know, you're gonna have your preference when you get to that level at, you know, OHL, college or pro, that you like your brand or you like how certain sticks feel. But how is Warrior as far as like overall technology and stuff like that? Are they kind of rate with Bauer and CCM as far as their stick brand and how they're?
Yeah, I think they're, as far as their sticks, I think that they're, you know, they're just as good as Bauer and CCM. I think they had some warranty issues in the past, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, which
hurt them.
You know,
probably, right?
it hurts, you know, because in a locker room, like if someone says that stuff sucks, then it's gonna spread. Like if you say, as an influential guy in the locker room, you say, "Oh, this product's crap," we're not going to sell much of that unless they don't know you. But all those guys are talk to the other men's league guys, so I think that kind of went through the realms. But they make an awesome product, like, and they do a great product all the way through in their sticks from their entry level all the way up. Their protective is not, we don't carry much of it because it's just not great.
Yeah.
One thing we do is we go to a trade show in November and we sit down as kind of a panel. So it'd be, there'd be 4 or 5 of us, and we try to go through at every price point, kind of pick the best product for our customers. So, you know, instead of it being a Bauer product, it might be a Warrior because it's, you know, it's over spec compared to the Bauer. So we try to sit down and be logical, and, like, you know, obviously the brands do come into play as far as what's going to sell because it has the B or C on it. But sometimes you're like, this is just that much better of a product. We can't buy the Bauer or the CCM because maybe Warrior is better in this aspect, or, you know, between Bauer and CCM. So we sit that down and we do that through skates, elbow pads, anything you can think of. We try to pick the best product for for that price point. So we're not going to carry everything that everyone has, but we've carried the best thing that we think as a panel for that price. If it's $100 stick or $100 elbow pad, we hope to have, you know, the best 2 or the best 3, depending on what product it is.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's really good. And what about True Sticks? Are they kind of right on par as well? Are they kind of, and I know the technology is probably not a secret. There's probably little things that they're putting in here and there that make, they don't separate each one of them a little bit, but are they, how, because again, True's in the NHL, there's some guys using those sticks, and how is that compared to the Warrior, to the CCM, to the Bauer? Is it right on par with them? Is it kind of?
Yeah, I think as far as performance, they're pretty polished. Like they're a composite company. You know, they make golf clubs for I don't know how many years, and so they know they're composite. They had some issues with the blades in the past, but they've really rectified that with their new couple models. But as far as feel and pop, they do a great job.
Oh, that's good. And then I guess I don't want to touch on every piece of gear, because I think the biggest two, you'd agree, I think, is the skates and the stick, obviously, right? As far as like the biggest pieces of equipment that are carrying importance for a hockey player's performance.
I might throw in a helmet in there, but
okay, so no, I was going to ask you, what would be the third? So probably a helmet would be the third, right? For comfort and fit, and
for sure.
Yeah,
I think there's so much technology and so much research that's going into helmets nowadays. Everyone's got their lab. If it's CCM, Bauer, Warrior, they have their lab and they do
where they're just like smashing helmets.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like You're like, oh, man, I could wear that helmet, stop smashing it, right? So I think it's one of, after even skates, I think helmet might be the next thing because, if you're not stable on your skates, you at least should have a good helmet. But there's tons of technology like CSAM works with Ottawa U as far as when the NFL got sued, some of that money went to Ottawa to do some research, concussion research. And they teamed up with those guys to kind of build helmets. They went to labs and they would analyze someone like the Safard hit from years ago and reenact it in a lab setting to build a helmet that will take a rotational hit. So they do endless studies, especially for helmets, because I'm sure there's lots of lawsuits that could happen because of it.
Yeah.
But all that technology has got so much better than, what we probably wore, 15, 20 years ago. It's just every helmet is as long as it fits properly, it's so much more protective than years ago.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Do you remember the XL7?
Yes.
Helmet? Yeah, I rocked that for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the ear flaps, practice pop them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, man. Any old school hockey players out there that remember wearing an XL7? It was unbelievable. It was, and I actually blew up on me at tryouts one time. I got hit and the cage flew right off.
Oh.
It was, Dad came down to the bench, wired the cage back on, and back out I went. It wasn't such thing as a concussion protocol back then. It's just like, you got to make this team, kid.
Yeah. No quiet room for you.
No, not at all.
It shows now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Where am I right now? Couple things kind of leaving. I don't want to take up all your time, but I really appreciate you coming in and some really insightful stuff. And obviously I've even learned some stuff off this, which is as far as I'm always curious because I love the skill part of it and how players use the equipment, but sometimes I don't know all the details behind the scenes on how a stick is made or how things are done. Right. So I think it's important. I think it is important for the kids to get that stuff too, as well. But you kind of being in that retail environment, we were joking kind of before we got on the air about, almost being like a bartender, because there's a lot of times where, parents come in, you've got them for 15, 20 minutes, fitness skate, heating it up, lacing it up. And you hear a lot of just good things, bad things, things like that with minor hockey, obviously. What are some of the things, what are some of the main topics that parents do talk about when it comes to minor hockey or different things that maybe come up in conversation with you? Cause I know a lot of things I hear are, bad coaching.
Of course.
We got crazy parents on our team. When they're talking crazy to you, they're saying there's crazy parents on the team.
Yeah.
Like things like that. But is there anything that kind of pops in your head as far as like, and the reason I say this is because I think the more we talk about it and bring this stuff to light, we're all parents. Like you're a parent, I'm a parent, and you may have heard me say this before, but we're all crazy. Every single one of us is crazy. Whoever can hide it the best is the least amount crazy. Because I want my kid to be awesome. I want my kid to be good at kicking a ball or running or doing whatever. And I probably want him to win that race with the other 4 kids at 2 years old. And, but if I can just sit there and be like, hey, good job, everybody, awesome. And even though inside I'm really mad because he lost, then I don't look that crazy, right?
Yeah.
Or that dad that was screaming and yelling and videoing and telling Johnny to run faster.
Yeah.
He's crazy. I'm just as crazy. I just hit it way better.
Yeah.
So I think when parents, I think the more we talk about it, it's like, I want parents to just realize like, yeah, I should shut my mouth when I'm at the rink. Yeah, I should maybe not email the coach right after the game or text the coach or call the coach. I should wait. Yeah, I should ask my son if he felt like he was slighted with ice time today. And when he tells me he wasn't, no, I was great. I loved the game. It was awesome. Then I should shut my mouth, go sit down, chill out and let it go,
Yeah.
But is there anything that comes up like while you're, kind of, cause you do get a lot of time with these parents, like more than a lot of us as far as like 15, 20 minutes. And some of them I know aren't talking about anything, just, talking about politics or whatever.
Yeah.
But is there any kind of hot topics that do come up as far as?
I find nowadays it's, even over the last couple of years, it's, if there's a new product, like people almost keep it close to their heart now. It's like we have this new steel, and I had a couple of customers saying like, I'm like, just tell your the rest of your team to check this out. And they're like, no, like my son is gonna have this advantage. I'm not gonna tell the rest of the team. Instead of it being like a team mentality, it's like a me mentality. I'm like, yeah, but if your team's doing great, then your kid's gonna still get looked at even more so. So that's something I think is kind of new as far as.
Man, you know what? When I first started doing skill stuff, I had parents joke with me, but we're not telling anybody about you because we don't want you to get too busy, or we don't want other kids doing this. And I agree. I think there's a lot of that goes on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And obviously, they talk about coaches, and you can always tell if it's the coach or if it's the mom and dad. I think it's those crucial conversations that, as you said, when you talk to little Jimmy, if how he felt about the game, instead of you putting an idea of how he should feel in the game. But we're also teaching, I think, a lot of bad characteristics as far as, once you get to the real world, you're not going to be able to do this type of thing, right? So you're teaching your son or daughter, you can complain about this, or you can do this, where you need to have a conversation, as a human being, and
Totally, yeah.
and figure it out with the coach or the trainer, whoever it may be, instead of running your mouth to the person beside you or some random that might be good friends with the coach, but you don't know that. So I think it's just learning to communicate at any level, as far as if you're a AAA or you're a junior player, because once you get into the real world, like, you're not going to be able to talk like that, or you're just not going to be around the workforce or that. Right.
Yeah,
So
100%.
I think we're setting a lot of people up, and it's a small group, but I think it's something that needs to be taught at an earlier age to communicate better and to ask the questions that need to be asked, not accuse before you ask them.
Oh, I totally agree. I think the communication piece is big, whether that's from, mom, dad to the child, having that conversation about games or play or coach or whatever, like, good conversation there. And then helping that child have a conversation with their coach or their teammate or whatever that is, how often do you have parents that kind of don't let their kids talk? Basically, they answer all the questions for them. They're, hey, how's the season going? And then mom just pipes in, or dad just pipes in. Well, and
it's quite often, but I also find a lot of kids don't want to speak. Like, there's one time I was sitting in a skate fit, and I was like, do I need to text you? Like, it is easier. You don't want to talk? Like, give me your number. I'll text you. We could talk about this skate fit. And the kid kind of laughed, but he still didn't say anything. So it's, I think, a lot of kids are on text. It's, 3-word answers or like short little sentences to get their point across, but they're losing that touch to be able to have a conversation with someone who's older or younger or whatnot. But I think our staff, they're kind of trained, like, especially with the skate fit, we kind of,
because it's more intimate, right? Like, you with them for a good 10, 15 minutes, through the process.
Or
right?
it could be an hour and a half, but you almost like shoulder the parent. You make sure you're in the right price point, but you're like, okay, like, it's just gonna be me and Johnny now, or I'm gonna sit in my chair, and I'm just kind of, you'll see me kind of slide it around, because if the parent's trying to get too close, and I kind of like barricade them off a little bit. But our customers are awesome as far as, especially our core customers. They're fantastic, as they trust us, which is a big thing. So when we say something, they're not like checking the internet and being like, oh, well, that's not true. They're like, this is going to work best for your son or your daughter or whatnot. So we don't get it as often, but we definitely are, we're bartenders sometimes, which is, it's fun. It makes it entertaining during the day.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Sometimes
you just want to quit your shift. But no, you guys have built up a wicked community and like a family there where, you do have a lot of regulars. When I go in there, I'll bring my kids, and like, I enjoy going in there, saying hi to, sit in the back or whoever's, you know what I mean? Just, it is enjoyable. And, it's been cool. And I think obviously that's kudos to you, your staff, and the owners, and just kind of creating a fun environment there, and a kind of a relaxed environment. Going back just really quickly, but on the, children not talking, or kids not talking, not being able to carry on a conversation. Do you find now that you're a parent, you've got a little guy right now who's probably just like saying words and speaking and like small sentences and stuff. Are you more aware though now of making him speak for himself, or ask for himself, or doing things like that? I know he's young, but like, is it something that you and your wife think about a little bit? Because it's something that I thought about a lot. Like, if someone asks my child a question, they're older now, like older than yours, like 7 and 6, but you guys, no, they asked you guys ask. And sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get them to answer, but you got to answer. Or, hey, Dad, can I go do something over there? Well, ask if it's okay.
Yeah.
You come. No, you ask. Well, I'm not asking. I don't want to go.
It's definitely a conversation me and my wife have had, as far as, he's got to speak for himself. He's got to make his own decision. He's got to live and die by the sword, more or less. We're going to protect him to a certain amount, but, being able to communicate. Like, my younger brother, he's almost 10 years younger than me. He grew up with two older brothers that he had to speak for himself, or he never got heard. So, but the one thing I would say is he hung out with older people. So he knew how to talk to older people, where a lot of people are so intimidated, where, I'm interested to hear what's going on with, it doesn't matter what age group. And I'm sure you're interested in asking me questions, or, telling me something. I think it's building that relationship with customers, and as much as it might sound like a sales thing, like I care. I rather care about our customers than be like, okay, all right, made $1,000 sale. Let's move on from here, right? Like we want them obviously to come back, but like we also want everyone to come in and high five our staff. And my proudest moments are when guys come in and they ask for Nick or Jay or whatever. Right. And you're like, man, that's awesome. Like as much as it hurts me a little bit, it's not me. I always want it to be me, but it's just like a proud, like almost dad moment when you're like, come in and like, if you say, hey Sid, like high five, you're like, oh, I love that. Like people know our staff by name and they trust them and whatnot. But to come back to it, it will be something that, you're going to speak for yourself. You're going to talk to that person. If they're talked to, don't hide behind me. You're going to stand in front and have that conversation. And
those are to me, those are life skills that translate into what you're doing or what I'm doing or whatever. And I'm not saying it's a lost thing at all. I just think every parent wants their child to grow up better than we did. I had a great life. I had awesome parents and a good family, but I want to do things. Maybe I want my kids to have better things than I did, or you know what I mean? Like whatever that is. Right. And I think sometimes we forget about those life skills. We kind of get in front of stuff. Or we get in front of stuff and try to we'll handle this. We'll take care of this instead of letting them navigate through it and push through it or figure it out, I
remember, I don't know how many years ago you started your school or
like 100.
Yeah, exactly. And I just remember like parents and kids were like, oh, we get to skate with Dwayne today. And I was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh, do you like that better than your practice? Oh yeah. And they were communicating how like you talk to them as like, human beings instead of being like, oh, this is my little soldier or whatnot. Like you'd build those relationships. You'd ask them how they're doing and, edge control and you explain things so well. And that's something that, I heard for so many, and I still hear so many times every day when you're first starting out. I'm like, Dwayne, like, who the heck is this guy? Right. And I just remember like meeting him, like same thing. I had the same experience and it speaks volume to even what you guys do on the ice and how you've grown your business.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
And I think that's with your kids. I'm sure it's going to be the exact same way.
Well, we'll see. Like I joke with parents because I preach them or I'll tell them like, not that they're doing a bad job, but like my opinion on things. And I always leave a lot of the conversations with like, you might see me one day at the rink banging on the glass and screaming, and you need to come over to me and tell me to shut up and sit down. Like you got to tell me that, because I don't know. I mean, I think I have an idea of what I'd like to be, but I don't know what's going to happen when if my kid's playing house league in the playoffs and game 5 and he's getting benched. I might be screaming in the stands. I don't know. Right. I'm hoping I don't, but you never know. But I mean, the big thing here, and I really appreciate coming in is, building relationships. And obviously I've had a good relationship with you over the years through, kind of doing a lot of stuff at Source and working with you and Hoffs and all the crew there and stuff. But, I really do appreciate coming in and talking about, kind of some people probably turned it off when we started nerding out on hockey gear. But, I've had a lot of people ask about like, hey, could you talk more about kind of new technology and what's out there, and even the kick points and the flexes and all that kind of stuff. I think it's important for people to know. A lot of people already know, and you can find this stuff out online, but it's always cool to hear from kind of an expert in that field. So I really appreciate it. It's awesome.
Yeah. I'm just going to plug, if you follow us on Facebook, Run and Source of Sports, or Source 519 on Instagram. A lot of times we post those things and, even little tips we'll throw on there. And if there's a latest and greatest kind of special feature coming out that's top secret, it'll be kind of launched or spoofed on there for sure.
Yeah, Source has, you guys are in the know for sure. And probably one of the best billboard signs in the city, right?
Yeah, we do okay.
You guys do some stuff. I
will say Hop is the mastermind usually behind that.
So if you're driving down Warncliffe and you pass by Source, always look at their message board on the right in front of their store. I'm going to say 60% of the time there's some sick stuff on there. Sometimes it's promoting things, but other times it's great. I love the Leafs when they carve the Leafs. It's the best.
Yeah.
Hit a nerve with all the people in this area for sure. Right. Well, buddy, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, buddy.